Hey everyone, welcome to Jeff and Paper Gary. It is Sunday, June 14th, I think, and not much of an intro today, just gonna get into working. So a couple of rivets to finish on the right elevator that I just forgot to put in the 713 strap deal that holds the counterweight balance in there, so we'll get those put in real quick. And then back to the left elevator. Might even take a trip out to my friend's shop to use his brake to go bend the custom brackets I'll have to make to mount the trim tab actuator. So thanks for tuning in. Let's see what we learned. Well, we learned a very harsh lesson very quickly here in this episode. I'm not going to talk for long. I'm going to send you back over to Live Action Jeff. He's going to tell you the mistakes I made. Okay, let's talk about what happened here real quick. I was changing out the yokes on my Pneudraulic Squeezer and I got distracted by something and I went back to go start squeezing rivets, and as you may have observed in the video, I only put one of the retaining pins into the yoke. When I did that, it twisted the yoke a little bit when I set the rivet, and it snapped the screw that connects the ram to the Pneudraulic Squeezer. So that has put that tool out of commission for the day. Tim from Pt.10 has a love-hate relationship with this tool. He has broken that screw a couple times. I have not had a problem with mine, and because of that reason, I never wanted to touch the thing. Now, a couple of things on there. You probably always should make sure that it's tightened. And I was just texting with Tim, and he said every time he changes a yoke, he'll try to rotate that shaft a little bit. This shaft, right? And if it can spin, it's loose, and you should probably tighten up that screw a little bit. You could put some Loctite in there, but then when you need to take it out to switch the rams, that might not be the best thing because it's a really small screw. So I'll get into the routine and habit of checking that every time. Now, in addition to that, while I've got it apart, there are some improvements that Hisham recommended to me from Clemson Aeronautics. So if you remember our friend Hisham from Clemson Aeronautics, it makes these really great yokes in the CAD1 system over here. He makes some very, very precision tools. The Chinese or wherever it's made, foreign-made Pneudraulic Squeezer probably isn't to the same standards of tolerances, right? And so one of the things he told me to do was to polish this ram up. So this is the ram that goes in there, and he said that when it's not polished, it doesn't retract all the way, and so that could be leading to some of the issues I have on the bench-mounted short throw yoke that I have when it doesn't retract the ram very much for me to get parts loose. So I did take some time while this was out, chucked it up in the drill press, hit it with some, very lightly, with some 2000 grit wet sand, some water and some 2000 grit paper, and then some polishing compound to make it really slick. And you can absolutely notice a difference the way it glides in and out of these yokes now. So hoping that that will lead to some improvements. The other thing that he suggested to me, hang on just a second, is adjusting these two side plates. So these are the side plates that go on the end of the squeezer, right, that the yoke attaches to. And sometimes it's a struggle to get the pins through there. It's kind of tight, you gotta mess with them because there's a certain amount of play in these when you put them together. Hisham's suggestion is loosen up these bolts, put one of his yokes in there, then tighten the bolts to make sure that they're perfectly even, because sometimes they'll be out of alignment and it makes those pins a little difficult to go in there. So I'll make sure that I do that when I'm putting it back together. To be honest, I was a little reluctant to do that earlier. I know that would show some improvement, but I've also heard how finicky those things are, and it was like if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. So I didn't want to go monkey with it too much for fear of making it worse. But now that I have ultimately broken the bolt, which I think everybody that owns one of those things is probably going to do at some point in time, I've got it all apart. I've got the bolts on order. They're not going to be here until tomorrow, so it'll be a lot of hand squeezing today, and that's it. We'll get on with life. So there's the rundown on how I broke the Pneudraulic Squeezer, how I will fix it, and how I will improve it. So I remember when I started this whole airplane building adventure, I told myself I wasn't going to buy any tools that weren't absolutely necessary. And with the used kit that I bought, I received a hand squeezer. And I thought, I'm not going to spend tons of money on a Pneudraulic squeezer or even a pneumatic squeezer when I have this perfectly good hand squeezer. Well, let me tell you, that thing's not a lot of fun.
I am in a better place physically that I can actually use this thing. When I first started this, I had tennis elbow and golfer's elbow so bad that I literally couldn't use a tool, so I kind of had to go get the Gnewdraulic Squeezer. But now I'm able to use this, and it's really not that bad. It's slow moving for sure, but I was sure glad to have this tool laying around so that I could use it and progress with building. Because if not, I would have been kind of stuck. Now, I will tell you, I got to a point where the yokes that I had for the hand squeezer were not sufficient to get to that top row of rivets along the spar where that skid, excuse me, eventually gets rolled over. So I squeezed a couple that I could, and then I thought, well, I'll just move on to something else, and that something else was this doubler plate. Now, we talked about the doubler plate quite a bit in the last video, so there's not too much to know about it here other than I use a hand squeezer to put the rivets in for the nut plates. So now that that is squared away, a little bit of cleanup and prep for paint for the rib that I made yesterday to go in that closeout area where the elevator mates up with the trim tab. So we'll have that in place. It's been all match drilled and got painted and dimpled and all those good things. So that'll be ready to go when we start assembling the rest of this. And I think that'll probably happen sometime during this week. So this video is going to post Sunday the 14th of June. I should get those screws, thank you Amazon, by tomorrow, and then hopefully zip up that left elevator pretty quickly. What I'm doing here is putting in the rivets to attach that doubler to the skin itself. I can go ahead and squeeze all these things, and I started squeezing them, and I was like, you know what, this is not the most effective means. The instructions actually call for you to back rivet those rivets. So I pulled all the Clecos out after squeezing a few of these things because I realized there's quite a bit of them. It would be much faster to just go ahead and back rivet. So that's what you see me doing here. Pull out all those rivets, back rivet, and then move on to the next part. And there are a number of things that I had to use the rivet gun on, and you'll see coming up here, right? So after this back plate gets put in, or this doubler gets put in, it's on to attaching the skeleton. And the first step is to rivet together the 703, 704 end ribs, which has to be done. Well, it doesn't. For me, it had to be done with a rivet gun and a bucking bar because I do not have the appropriate yoke on any of my tools to be able to squeeze those rivets without damaging the part. And it requires like a kind of a longeron yoke, because you'll see when you put those two ribs together, you end up with flanges on both sides. So you can't really go in there with just your standard yoke. But the riveting today, by and large, went really well. Yeah, there were a few that I did have to drill out, but all in all, I was pretty happy with it, and certainly becoming far less anxious about riveting and drilling out and replacing far fewer rivets, I think. So that was basically about it. You know, you go step by step, and I think we talked about this in the previous elevator, right? Making sure you get the right plates on the right side and the nut plates on the right side. And you'll see here in just a second, I start putting these things all together, and I Clecoed the middle one. I guess this is the outboard edge one. There's one more that's in the middle portion of this, and I Cleco it all together, and I realized really quickly that my part stack up is not correct. I have one of the plates on the back side, or on the wrong side of the spar. So glad I caught that before I put any rivets in there. Now this particular part takes the AN 470 4-5 rivets, -6 rivets, and -7 rivets. So there's a bit of a stack up where you have only the spar and one plate. There's 4 holes in that one, and those take the -5s. You have a portion where it's a spar and both doubler plates. Those are the -6s. Then you have a portion that is the spar, both doubler plates, and the nut plate that takes the -7 rivets. And so here I am drilling out one of those rivets and replacing it. But I did find it was much easier to clamp the spar to the table. And so very gently I used a quick clamp and made sure I didn't get the flange or anything in the way, and just clamp that to the table to give it some, to keep it from moving. When I had it laying on the edge of the table, it wanted to tilt over and move over and rotate all around the table, made riveting a bit more challenging. But putting it in this position here and just putting a small padded clamp on it really helped to keep that stable so that I could get some better riveting in place. And the rest of these things, like I said, they went in pretty good. Now you'll get to the moment here on the other side where you put the elevator horn on, and again, that can actually go on two ways. I didn't know it, but you can actually put that thing in about 90 degrees out of phase, and it's not pointing in the right direction. So make sure you're paying attention to which area that goes on. And that went in pretty non-eventful. I will tell you, the tungsten bucking bar, those things are super, super expensive. And I bought one of the plain ones. You can see it there on the right side of the screen on my table by the clamp right there. And it's got a square edge on one, and then one that's kind of at a slight angle, which was really helpful when dealing with some of these ribs where it's you can see where it's angled to get in there and get on that rivet really well. If I had lots of money, I would buy, I don't know, every single tungsten bucking bar I could get my hands on, because they are great and they come in all shapes and sizes, but man, they can get really, really pricey. And so for your average guy building a airplane in his garage, dropping $300-400 on a bucking bar is a little bit outside of my normal means of affordability. But I think when I bought this one, it was maybe $150 or $200, but well worth the money in my opinion. So yeah, that's really it. A lot of shots of riveting this thing together, and then getting this the 713 skin around there. Again, we talked about that. No need to go into more detail on there. And then sliding this whole fixture into the skin. And I mentioned before, I get to a point where I can only do so much because I can't reach it with the yokes that I have on the hand squeezer. So I think that's really about it for this one, guys. Hopefully that screw will be in, and we'll get back into working on these things. The trim tab is going to come up next. Oh, and the custom brackets that I'm going to have to go bend for the servo. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to get to that, but that's on the list of things to do. And we'll have some closeout activities going along. And then hopefully really, really soon we can get into fuel cells and wing part kits and things. So I'll have to reconfigure the garage a little bit here, and maybe not so much for the fuel cells, but definitely when it comes wing time, there's a whole structure that's going to go into place there. So until next time, I think I'm going to call it good. You guys can feel free to skip, fast forward, or sit and watch me rivet and squeeze and put things together. It's not all that exciting, but thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, all the good things that you'll hear from Live Action Jeff at the closeout. So appreciate everybody watching. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, everyone, I am about as far as I can get with my hand squeezer now. A couple more rivets that I could get, but until I get the squeezer, the pneumatic squeezer, hydraulic squeezer fixed, I can't reach most of those rivets. So I'm at a good stopping point. It's getting late in the afternoon, and so that's going to wrap it up for today. Want to give a shout out and a thanks to T-Flight Tim for being Johnny on the spot with a link to the screws that I need for that squeezer. So Amazon order placed. Those should be here tomorrow. And then hopefully I'll get in during the week and button up all those rivets and get those out of the way. So the next time you see me, we should be rolling those leading edges on both the left and right elevator, and then starting to work on the elevator trim tab. And then I'll probably have a weekend of just closeout activities, right? Going through all of the steps and instructions once again to make sure that I've got everything in place, that I've torqued everything down, and then there's probably going to be some assembly while we connect elevators and rudder to the vertical and horizontal stabs. So we're getting close. I know I keep saying this, and you know, I always seem to have this grand vision where I'm going to get a whole lot more work done. Things certainly moved slower today without the Pneudraulic Squeezer and having to squeeze by hand, but didn't let it stop me. Still got some work done and got to a pretty good place. So thank you all for watching. Really appreciate everybody. Please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. This is Jeff and Paper Gary out.